Welcome to the next episode of Industry Voice. The guest today we have is amazing one. So, Stacey Brown, those of you don't know, he is like a Mount Rushmore figure in the world of InsurTech community. And this episode, I'm gonna ask him to go back to the beginning of that journey. So, I hope you enjoy. Hello, welcome to the show. Welcome to this episode of Industry's Voice. And today we have a special guest, Stacey Brown. How are you, Stacey?
I'm great, Jeff. How are you, sir?
Let me give our audience a little bit intro about Stacey. So I met Stacey 4 or 5 years ago, and I think I met Stacey at one of his events, and I instantly realized that you knew everyone. I went to the event that I believe you hosted. It was called InsurTech Hartford. And over the years, I've just been paying attention to you. You have maybe one of the most prominent networks in all of InsurTech and in the Connecticut area as well. So this little episode is about you, is about how you started your life in the insurance, how you got your life going in the InsurTech world, and what led you to InsurTech Hartford, and what is new now.
Sounds great, man.
If you give a little bit of audience about your life and your journey through this whole thing and how did you get into insurance, we'd love to hear all about it.
All right, sure. For those that are interested, I wasn't always in insurance, right? Remember that old movie with the dude Axel F? He was like, I wasn't always a cop, right? What was that movie? Do you remember what that movie was, Jeff? It was like an 80s movie.
I need more coffee. I'm drawing blank right now.
I remember it had that song that went along with it. There's all keyboards. What was it? Axel F? Beverly Hills Cop. That's what it was. Yeah. So anyway, I wasn't always in insurance, and I was in retail management for a lot of years, and then managed to get my first IT job during the dot-com boom in the late 90s. And I was a software developer, something I had started doing as a kid. I was like 12 when I got my first Commodore 64 or whatever it was, and I was always building apps and writing code and stuff, and it was just like a pleasure. It was like the work of pleasure to me, right? And when I was able to finally get my first IT job, I was like so excited because the idea of just being able to sit there and create through code. I always loved coding because I saw it as like a left brain, right brain thing, right? Because you have to have there are rules, there are some, you have to know the languages, you have to know the frameworks, you have to know a lot of things. But then it's creative. It's like once you have all that knowledge, you get to apply it to create stuff. There's nothing inside this computer, just hardware. Now you have to make it do stuff, right? So I was really drawn into that. And but then when actually today, as we're recording this, is September 11th, and September 11th, 2001 was a pivotal day for a lot of people, and for me. I was working in Norwalk, Connecticut at a software shop doing Lotus Notes deployments, right? And our office was near near Long Island Sound, and I went outside and I can actually see the smoke from New York City coming up from the towers. And by about 11 a.m., management said, you know what, everybody go home for the day. And about a month later, somewhere in October, I got called into his office about 4:45 on a Friday, and he said, "Hey, I hate to do this to you. You've been doing a great job, but you were the last person I hired, and I have to let somebody go because after 9/11, the phone stopped ringing. It was a small startup. They only had 8 people, right? So how do you keep paying 8 salaries when you're not getting any revenue?" So, and that was actually the second time in 2001 I had gotten laid off. That first job I had as a web developer was terminated in Q1 after the dot-com bust, right? Like suddenly nobody wanted to do anything on the internet, and and so that's how, like, my early IT career, I got to do some really good and cool things during the dot-com days. But eventually, I found myself without a job again for the second time in 2001. My wife was pregnant with my youngest daughter.
Wow.
It was just like really stressful times. And then this friend of mine, Lance Raffa was his name. He and I had gone to school together. We worked together at one company, and he had gotten a job at Travelers. And he's like, Travelers is hiring. Send me your resume. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to work for an insurance company, right? I'm like Mr. Techie. Like, I'm like thinking, I want to do some cool stuff. Like, why would I want to go work in insurance? All right, fast forward 20 years later, I love insurance. I love the industry. It's a tech and data industry. That is what we do. We're constantly analyzing data and looking for tech, for data acquisition, for data management, and for reporting out. Right. So
Yeah.
we do other things, of course, for added value to the customer and help desks and stuff like that. But most systems, it's all about just data in and data out. But there are so many cool ways in which we do that as an industry. So that's kind of my background on how I got into insurance. In 20 years, I only worked for two carriers. I worked for Travelers for about 7 years, and I spent 14 years at Excel. And corporate mergers always happen, right? Even in the years I was at Travelers, they were actually a part of Citigroup. Then they spun out independently. Then we bought St. Paul companies, became St. Paul Travelers for a while. And we lost the umbrella. There was a period of time where Travelers didn't have the red umbrella. They had this little red swoosh. It was almost like the Nike logo.
I do not remember that one.
Yeah, it was only for like a couple of years, and then all of a sudden, we were back to just being called Travelers, and the red umbrella was back. And I don't know, people would make jokes about about something about a poker game and the umbrella, right? So, but yeah,
So I have to ask this question. So
sure.
today, when we talk to every carrier, like, what are you guys doing to innovate? And you hear like buzzwords, connectivity, AI, blockchain. Those three are like the buzzword like the last 3 years, right? Embedded. In 2001, 2008, what were Traveler doing like 23 years ago to innovate back then? And they had always have like the one of the best reputation in the industry, know their underwriting and good at tech. So like, what were they doing to stay ahead of the curve back then?
They were always investing in tech, and Travelers was always a real good, and they still are a really good developer of people in our industry. They like to do a lot of build, right? So I came in, and it was after they had bought their bond division from Aetna, and they really didn't have much in terms of systems, and so they decided they want to invest, and we built all these core admin systems in-house, right? So I don't know that we didn't set out to be innovative. We set out to be value creators for the business, right? Like, there was lack of consistency, a lot of stuff going on in spreadsheets, and there was an old application, and we, as the business was growing, Travelers Bond became, I think to this day still is, the largest surety company in the United States by premium. And so, but during those growth stages, like it was great because I had that startup mindset, and I was in a rapidly growing division in this big company.
Yeah,
But
you were right where you need to be.
it was all about building the latest. Like, we were building, .NET client-based applications that were talking to, APIs back in the early and mid 2000s, right? Like, we still talk about these things that, well, maybe we don't talk about, thick clients anymore. We talk more about responsive apps, right? But still, at the end of the day, the architectures are very much the same. The infrastructure world has gone to the cloud in a number of different ways, but at the end of the day, even innovation that's done today is really about trying to find value for the business. So, and just back then, I don't felt like we called it innovation. We were trying to use tech to solve business problems.
Yeah.
And maybe somewhere in the company they were being innovative. It just wasn't what I was doing when I woke up every day at the time.
So you went from there to vice president of claim IT.
Well, no, I went to Excel, right? So,
Right.
in Travelers, I was having really good, career trajectory. I had produced some good results and was getting a lot of recognition. But that friend of mine who got me the job at Travelers, he went to Excel. Like 6 months after he gets me a job at Travelers, he goes to Excel. So then for like the next 6 years, he's trying to convince me to come over to Excel. But I was having, like I said, good career growth and stuff in Travelers. But I was watching my friend like having all these cool trips to like London and Switzerland and just the stories he would tell about the work he was doing. And I was like, all right, I'm ready. So finally I joined Excel, and the conversation was something like this. I guess I could say this now because the people involved are no longer in industry. So but the conversation was something like this: like, Stacey, everyone's been talking about you for years. When are you going to join our company? Well, what do you want me to do? It's like, it doesn't matter. Just join and we'll figure it out. Okay.
It's awesome. That's
good.
reputation.
Yeah, so but that's how easy it was to get a job back. Not that it was easy, but like using the network that I had at the time and the reputation I had built, it was like they didn't even know what the role was. They just knew they wanted me, and I came on it, and I was originally looked at as a strong technical talent, but I grew a management career path. Like I never wrote I don't think I ever wrote any code in all the years that I was at Excel, right? So I had moved from that very hands-on role to more management. And I mean, I did some architecture, some security stuff. In the 14 years, I had the privilege of doing a lot of different roles. If you think about 14 years is a long time to be in one company. So it's not like I had one job. But one of the things that I did was I was head of claim IT for a while. And when I first joined in 2008, that's when the financial crisis hit. Excel was almost out of business. They had lost like a $4 billion lawsuit over CDOs from some company that they had spun off, and the shareholders came back and sued them, and so the company almost went broke. Like their stock went from like $68 to $2. And Mike McGavick came in and was able to help raise the capital to keep the company afloat until it turned it around. But while all that was going on, they started letting people go as soon as I had joined, pretty much. And so they put me on this claim project. The global claim system, because there was a lot of years where Excel was like acquiring different companies. So they had all this data and all these systems, all these different processes for everything. And claims was the thing they chose to do a transformation on first. So I became head of technical architecture on that program. We worked with a major consulting firm with a claim solution that they had at the time, which it was just a series of different components. It wasn't even like meant to be a system or something, but we heavily customized it, and it became it wound up becoming a part of a very well-known suite today. Like, if you think about the industry leading core systems, it's one of those. So we helped contribute to IP and the financing, I think, through that project to make that system robust. And after it went live, it was one of these things where everybody celebrates that we came in under budget, we came in ahead of schedule, and then like 6 months later, you've got internal audit raising all these concerns to the board, because of all the corners that were cut and everything. It became a big mess, and there's a lot of challenges, and They went through a couple heads of claim IT at the time, and then somebody turned to me and said, "Stacey, why don't you take that?" And I kind of looked at it, right? And there's these moments in your career when you look back, and it was either a good decision or a bad decision. And I remember looking at the claim opportunity and leadership opportunity, and I thought to myself, well, it can't really get any worse, right? So it felt like a situation where, yeah, there was going to be a lot of hard work and headache and risk associated with it, having watched two good leaders get burned out in the role. But I've never been afraid of hard work, and I felt that there was just more upside to it. And so that's when I took the head of claim IT role. I did that for a few years, and then next thing you know, we were merging with Catlin. We became XL Catlin, and I took a different role at that point because we had these two different IT teams, and we had to make them into one. So we did a whole IT operational transformation initiative. Working with a major consulting firm, putting in standardized processes like, leveraging.
What year was this?
This was 15-ish, 13 to 15-ish, I think.
And you guys called it optimal transformation, or did you call it digital transformation?
We called it claims transformation is what we called it. Actually, sorry. After claims, we called it IT transformation, and I was head of transformation. So it was like I didn't have a team, right? It was me reporting to a C-level person, and I had to help put these organizations together in a way that just made sense. So we looked at things like the ITIL framework, and there was a lot of stuff in that framework that made a lot of sense. So we standardized both the operations side and the development side of our shop. We also did heavy vendor consolidation because both sides of the pre-merger had a lot of vendors. We had a couple that were in common, but I think we had like 40 something vendors when we put it all together. And we were like, well, we're not getting good buying power out of any of these, and none of them love us enough because we're not big enough. So we went through this huge like RFP process and all that. So I've had the experience to do things like that, like basically rebuild an IT organization from the ground up, but not as the C level guy, but like the right hand person to the C level guy that was driving it, right? And it was great fun. It was hard work. It was great fun. And then after that is when I started getting into the digital stuff, and that led up to about 2016, I'd say, yeah, because that's when I started seeing all the trends of investors putting money into startups. And it reminded me of those .com days. And I said, hey, I want to be a part of this somehow. And there was nothing to be a part of. And that was basically how I started InsurTech Hartford. I started calling on people from that I knew in the industry. At that point, it was like I was in for like 15 years, and people move around. So I knew a lot of people around Hartford, and we just started getting together, and the meetings just kept getting bigger and bigger. I didn't set out to build something. I just wanted to be a part of something. And now here it is, several years after having started it. And this is pretty much my focus right now. And I've taken the work after I left Excel last year. I've been taking the lessons that I learned and building the community in Hartford and helping apply it to other communities. So last year, we launched InsurTech Chicago, InsurTech Atlanta. This year we had InsurTech New England, kind of moving into more of a regional play. And we have a couple new communities coming up in the Carolinas and Florida, and possibly some others where people have started to show interest. So, we've figured this out. We know how to do it. I've got a back office team now that does some of the things that people don't really want to do. There's always something people don't want to do, right? In any kind of job or function, right? And we put boards together to be the boots on the ground to help with, coming up with content, speakers, helping find venues and locations that are friendly, because these are not massive conferences, right? These are like networking style events where it's just drinks and apps and a little bit of content and a lot of talking. So a lot of networking. So it helps to work with people in the local area that know the area. So it's kind of a win-win, right? I bring in all the expertise and the network that comes along with it, and the cash flow, right? And because these things also cost money to run. And then the local people get to focus on, the things that they want to probably focus on, which is, how are we engaging the community? Who are we engaging? What's the content? How many meetings are we having? And what else could we do besides, just networking events? And that's always a fun question.
Go back for our listeners for a second. There's a couple of things I've been taking mental notes since you start talking. It's so interesting to me, like the biggest insurance company we know that was affected by 2008 crash was AIG, right? Insurance company that played in the CDO mortgage derivatives market that got burned really bad. I did not know Excel was part of the whole CDO bubble crash.
Yeah.
And, that made me think forward to today. So a couple months ago, I read an article. There are 64 banks that's just so heavily under the water right now. If there's ever a run on capital deposits, that they would just go under, and Bank of America, Capital One, because of all their commercial real estate loans that they have on their book. Mm-hmm. So now made me think like, Nationwide, for example, they do a lot of commercial real estate, but are they also playing the lending space, right? Like who else in insurance is all playing this commercial real estate space? And as we see a new bubble that's forming, that's sitting out there, like how many insurance companies will be affected today if there's a lot of writing down losses, right? So there's a random thought I thought about, and let's go back to day one of InsurTech Hartford, because this is your current project, your biggest project. What was day one on launching that event? Calling around for people in your network, trying to bring together an event, trying to bring together sponsors and the big names for speakers. Who was your big name for speaker in your own local event, and who was your first sponsor? Thank you for all your support to our channel. Here is a quick word from our sponsor. Please click on the link below in the comment section to sign up for a demo with Track AI.
What if your insurance sales conversations could work harder for you? Meet Track, your AI-powered conversation intelligence partner. Track automatically captures and analyzes every customer interaction, providing instant call summaries, risk analysis, and AI-driven coaching insights. Say goodbye to manual note-taking and hello to more selling time. Track handles the admin work while you handle the revenue. Fully integrated with your favorite platforms. Plus, get custom AI analysis tailored to your unique business needs. Transform your sales team's performance with Track. Visit track.ai today.
Click the link in the description below to schedule a demo with Track today.
It depends on which event you're looking at, right? So we started out with just networking events. Actually, the very, very first thing we ever did was a hackathon. It wasn't even a networking event. It was we called it a business plan hackathon. It was a Saturday from like 10 to 2, and we just wanted to focus on ideas. And so we used a business model canvas, and we came up with different ideas, and it was really exciting. The energy that was there. We had about 20, 30 people, a lot of students. I'll never forget when I first showed up about 9 a.m. to start opening the place up, because they had given me the keys, and there were these two students sitting in the hallway. And they had gotten on a bus at like 5 o'clock in the morning from Temple University in Pennsylvania, and took the bus to Hartford, Connecticut on a Saturday morning to participate in a hackathon. Like, that was some hustle and some dedication, if you ask me, right? But it also showed the potential power and strength of InsurTech. And it wasn't even Insure. I was like, I think we might have been advertised.
All InsurTech back then?
I think we did. That event, I think we called it an InsurTech Hackathon. Yeah. But it wasn't like, no, it was InsurTech Hartford. But yeah, that was the first. It was April 1st, 2017. I remember the date because it was April Fool's Day. But I had started in like November of 2016 was when I started trying to form all this stuff, right? I said, you know what, I'm going to do it. And I just started reaching out to people. And the biggest challenge I needed was a venue. I needed a venue to do it. And we had a co-working space that was opening up in Hartford. And they were happy to help donate the space because they wanted corporates and entrepreneurs, to know about the space. So I was bringing them in. And so it was a good natural partnership in the beginning. But it really started with that. And that was, like I said, April 1st, 2017. And that was the year of the first ITC, and I didn't go to that one because I didn't know about it, right? I just heard about it post-event. And I went in 2018. And then when I came back, I was like, that was so awesome. How do we do something similar? And
so your inspiration came from ITC?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that's where the idea of trying to do it as a conference came from. And so in 2019, so actually it wasn't 2018 that I decided to do it. This is when I first discovered the conference scene. And then in 2019, I came back from ITC and I said, that's it, we're doing it. And I signed a contract with the Marriott for 6 weeks later. The first week of November the first day was on election day. And that was of 2019. And that was the InsurTech Hartford Symposium. So we had no sponsors and no tickets sold. And in 6 weeks, we had the first InsurTech Hartford Symposium. And we had about 275 to 300 people.
It's your first event.
That was the first major.
That's incredible.
Symposium.
As a regional event, you have 300 people in insurance. That's incredible.
Yeah, we went from zero to that in 6 weeks. So, and I had no idea what I was really doing. Right, I was just making it up. And I remember Dina, and I had this woman, Dina Baliev, that she was she had recently retired from the Hartford and was just trying to help out. And the two of us were up to 3 o'clock in the morning because I'm still working a full-time job at this point, right? So we're up to 3 in the morning trying to get everything done, and it was a lot of work. And then the pandemic happened, and we obviously couldn't do the symposium or any more networking events, but we went online and we started having events. That's when the Innovation Challenge launched, and I think we had 500-600 attendees for the Innovation Challenge awards program that year. And we had a couple really large audiences until all of a sudden it was kind of nobody cared about going to online events anymore because we realized we were all just sitting there checking email and doing other work while this stuff was playing in the background, right? So, but yeah, during the height of it, we InsurTech Hartford became more of a global brand because everything we were doing was just based on people in the community of Hartford. Once we went online during the pandemic, our audience just really grew. And then post-pandemic, we tried to have a symposium in 2021, but then there was just as we were approaching the final 90 days about our contract going hard with the venue, everyone was worried about the Delta variant, and so we just said, you know what, we kicked it into 2022. So we didn't come back until spring of 2022, and then we held it again in 23 and again last year in 24, and now we're in the process of planning for 25.
And those who don't know you, never been to your event, you have not just regional InsurTech brands like InsurTech Hartford, InsurTech Atlanta, InsurTech Chicago. You also have many mini events, part of InsurTech Hartford, right? Mm-hmm. Are you also InsurTech New York?
No, those are different guys, great guys, love the work they're doing there. But they kind of do. They're a little different. They're running a fund, and they're really interested in the venture side of it.
So I think I have seen ski slope InsurTech,
Yeah,
New Mexico river rafting InsurTech.
yeah.
I've been to one myself, and I thought that was the most unique. Where you go to massive events, 9,000 people, you don't actually get anything more than 2 minutes with somebody, versus at your ski slope or your water rafting event, you're sitting there with some of the biggest VC and founders in the game. You're sitting there with them for 2 to 3 days, just doing things and bonding with them. And that was an incredible event.
Yeah.
How did you come with that idea?
So actually, I got you brought up New York, so that was David's idea. It was he was
David's idea. Nice.
He said he and I were talking one day, and he was like, I've thought like it'd be nice to do like a ski trip event where we brought founders and investors together. I said that sounds like a great idea. How about if you and I did it together, right? So he's like, do you want to do it? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And he said, all right, great, let's do it. And I said, okay, now the only thing I have to do is I have to learn how to ski, because I had never skied a day in my life, right? So I'm like 50 years old, going to learn how to ski for the first time. It was kind of hard, but it wasn't hard. It just hurt more when I fell, and so that was kind of how that whole series started. And to your point, Jeff, those events are, first off, they're not InsurTech Hartford, they're not InsurTech New York. It's David and Stacey collaborating on what we call the InsurTech Investor and Founder Forum.
Yeah,
it's a 2-day plan. The first day is programming, where we bring in different speakers and we focus on topics that are relevant to both investors and founders. Whether it's analyzing a financial statement or how to write a good press release. We've done these guys love to talk to each other too, and doing little working group things. The bonding that starts happening on day one is great. And then we go to dinner in the evening. So it becomes more of a social environment. And then day two is spent doing an activity. So when it's InsurTech slopes, we go skiing. We've done InsurTech rapids, the whitewater rafting, like you've done. We've done InsurTech trails, we called it once. And we've been able to keep this program running twice a year, once in the winter as a ski event and once in the summer as something outdoorsy. And the relationships that have been developing have been great. There have been companies where the investor and the founder met at our event. The investor made the investment. The company got sold. The investor made their money back and made their multiples, and everybody was happy, right? So real deals happen as a result of the connections that happen at this. The first event we ever did, we asked everybody, if you're a startup, just on a piece of paper, write down what you think the current valuation of your company is, and if you're an investor, considering the current valuation of your portfolio and the cash that you have, what's the valuation of your portfolio? And we put all those pieces together. So this is obviously not highly scientific and unaudited, but based on that, we had $6 billion of market cap in the room.
that's amazing.
Yeah. So it's 20 to 40 people usually, and so. We have the next one coming out. It's going to be the first week of February. I think it's 4th and 5th. We're going to be in Vail, Colorado for the next InsurTech Slopes event. And it's going to be it'll be our 4th one, and it's going to be another amazing event.
I have a confession to make.
What's that?
So you and David have invited me multiple times, and the only reason I haven't gone is I don't know how to ski or snowboard. And I'm not ready to take the pain, but man, it is tempting to take the pain now.
I got to tell you, there have been people coming from all different parts of the world. We had people from Australia, from Pakistan, from the Middle East, from Europe. Like, they come from all over the world to come to these events. And it's not uncommon to have non-skiers there. There's usually some non-skiers. And when it comes to ski day, they either leave or they, hang out, because these ski villages that we go to, these are top-notch locations where we go. It's not like somebody's mountain in their backyard, and so the ski villages offer, great opportunities to relax, unwind, and there's usually a group of people, and even the people that ski, like me, I ski, I'm good for like 2 or 3 hours of skiing, and then I'm too tired, right? So then I'm looking for those guys, and they're usually at a restaurant somewhere at that point. So it's a business event. It sounds to some people like a boondoggle, but you know what? Developing relationships, when you're talking, these are strategic relationships between founders and their leadership team and members of the investment ecosystem. And we get everything from angel investors to people who are there looking to take their next company public, right? Like, Series C, D, wanting to go public. Like, we get the whole spectrum of investors coming out to these events. So
you even have like local family offices, right? Like the last time I was in New Mexico event, Santa Fe local family offices was all there.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah, we always try to get something out of the local ecosystem, some engagement out of the local ecosystem too.
You guys have a Hartford economic development people show up at your events, and you have an event tonight. Like as we recording this on September 11th, you have an event tonight that's happening that you're hosting. Hartford InsurTech is at Hartford Steam Boiler Home Office.
Yeah,
and if you want to tell us about it.
Yeah, it's a pitch night. It's pitch night 12 actually. So that means in Hartford we've done this 12 times. So we bring in usually about a half a dozen startups. If you bring in too many, I've noticed I've had as many as 10, and people's eyes start rolling in the back of their head, because it's an evening event and there's a little bit of food and alcohol being served. So people can only keep their attention so long. So, but yeah, we bring in all these startups. We try to give priority to anybody that's trying to do something new locally, and then we start cycling out from there. We have a good fortune of being between New York and Boston. So, in that whole triangle, there's always innovation going on. There's always something new. So we've been able to keep that rolling for the last several years. And this is our 12th one. And at the end of the night, we have a panel of judges. We try to mix it up. So this year, or this event, we have judges representing both venture capital, insurance carriers, and insurance agents. So, we got a diverse judges panel and some really good startups.
Who's the judges tonight?
Oh, you're going to make me have to look now. And by the time this airs, it'll be past tense, right? So it'll be, sorry that someone had to miss it.
Adam Cloud from
Adam's there.
Josh
Cooley, Berlane, BMS, yeah.
Darlene McDermott, Peter, I can't say that last name. Peter
Mylert from the Hartford, I believe, yeah.
Nice. And Anton Reed. This is a cool group. Man, there's a lot of pressure when you're pitching, especially when you're pitching live to these.
Well, here's the thing. We do it. It's an evening networking event. It's kind of meant to be, the stakes are low. It's low key. People are just, they're there for networking, but they're interested in what's going on. And it's an opportunity for these startups, while they have a relevant audience, to get their practice reps in, and for the ones that are lucky enough to win one of the categories, we have 6 startups and we have 6 categories that we give awards for. We've had nights where, it was one startup won everything, and we've had nights where every startup won something. So, but usually there's somebody who stood out and winds up with a couple of awards. And for the companies that win these awards, they wear them as like a badge, right? Like I see them in investor decks, like, hey, we won InsurTech Hartford, pitch event. And it's like, I remember the first time I saw that, I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. Like I didn't even put that together, that wasn't the intent. We were just trying to give these startups opportunity, and they took it as validation. It's a great opportunity for them. We've had over 200 companies over the years that we've helped in some way or another, and it's just been. I've had founders come up and tell me like I got the biggest customer that I've ever had at your event. Thank you so much. That was super helpful. It's not like an accelerator program or an incubator. Like we're not doing anything highly structured today like that. But we do this a couple times a year. And now that there's other communities, we're trying to get it going in other places. So we had a pitch night in Chicago earlier this year, for example, right? So we're gonna try and do more of these beyond Hartford. But Hartford is kind of the if there's one thing we've been really good and consistent at over time, it's this. And people get excited. I wind up getting more when we're putting a pitch night together. I always wind up having more people showing interest in it than there is capacity. And by the way, we don't take money for it. So it's really a service that we try to provide to the startup community.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Are you also going to have live stream one day on your events for people who cannot make it, or no?
We think about it. We talk about it, but we typically don't. We record it a lot of the times. Mm-hmm. We have the videos that can be played post, but there's two reasons for that. Number one, just the technical logistics. It sounds like, all you gotta do is set up your phone and go to LinkedIn Live or something like that. You couldn't do it that cheap, but it's typically not how we like to do things. But the second reason, and really the more important reason, is we want people there. We want the engagement. If you don't see your audience and you're not able to talk to your audience, it's just not the same. It's a very different experience. We have our innovation challenge every year, right? So that's all virtual, and all the startups that become finalists in that, they pitch in a virtual environment to virtual judges, and it all gets played back to a virtual audience. It's just not the same experience as when you're sitting there, you're giving the feedback. You can tell by people's eyes, you can tell by their phones, right? Are the phones pointed at you, or are they looking at them like this, right? Like, how interesting am I? Like, you can learn a lot by being in that live environment, and that's a big reason why we don't stream it out, because then people might not come out for the in-person event.
A lot of people don't know this until I went to Hartford, that Hartford battled Columbus, Ohio, and Des Moines, Iowa as insurance capital of America, right? And you guys have a rich background of feeding systems to make that happen.
Yeah, like anything else these days, it depends on what numbers you're looking at. Certainly, if nothing else, Hartford's a highly relevant place for insurance, right? We've got the home offices of some of the industry's largest carriers on P&C and healthcare, right? The most healthcare premium of any city in the U.S. goes through Hartford. We've got Cigna, Aetna, and United Health. I don't know what those three companies' market share is, but it's pretty large, right? We've got Travelers and the Hartford as large P&C carriers. We've got some strong life carriers as well in the area, and LIMRA is 10 minutes away and up the road in a town called Windsor. So the life, I forget what LIMRA stands for, but the Life Insurance Research Organization that all the life carriers support is right in our area too. So it's a strong place for talent. It's embedded in our infrastructure. Like we have some of the leading education programs, like UConn School of Law. UConn School of Law, I think, is well known for its program. University of Hartford has an actuarial program. We run an actuarial boot camp in the summer for high school students, I mean,
That's
we do,
awesome.
yeah, we have InsurTech venture programs in the universities. Like we really do, like tonight's event that we were talking about earlier. We have a group from UConn called Hillside Ventures. It's a group of finance students that are actually being venture capitalists. They actually have real dollars from the Alumni Association, and they're out there looking for real investments, right? So, like in so many ways, we're highly engaged in developing talent. I mentioned Travelers is really earlier. I mentioned how they're really strong at bringing in talent and developing them and building those things in house. And so it's a community that, and I'm just, I guess, bragging about Hartford. I don't want to take anything away from the other ones. Personally, I'm not. I don't want to call anybody the capital of anything, right? It seems like in Connecticut, this is something we do. Like recently, it was I saw some headlines about the governor made some signs that like declared he's hanging them up around the borders of like where it's like welcome to Connecticut. It's like welcome to Connecticut, the pizza capital of New England and the basketball capital of the U.S. And it's like what is this obsession with being the capital of things? You know,
We'll say New Haven, Connecticut have like the best pizza from, of course, from Barstool episodes, right?
Oh well,
You guys have the best pizza up there.
I think so. I really, I'm partial, of course, but only because I've traveled a lot and my number one food in the world is pizza, right? I can eat pizza 7 days a week. And my favorite, places for pizza are in New Haven. In fact, the closer you get to New Haven, the better the pizza gets.
I need to come up there for that just alone.
Yeah, let me know when you're in town.
So I'm gonna put all your links, for all your events, for you and everything else in the comment section below. If the audience want to get to know you, get to connect with you, what are some of the events that you're going to be at in the future, upcoming in the 2024-2025 season?
Well, some of the ones that I'm part of the advisory board for InsurTech Connect, so of course I'll be at that one in October. The InsurTech Insights is another big one that I've been friendly in supporting. Outside of that, nothing that I've done on a regular basis. A lot of it depends on the relationship we have with the organizers. Sometimes I go to Reuters events. Sometimes, I've been to WSIA. I've been to the one in Nashville, like Insurance Innovators, right? So I mainly focus though on my own events, right? We'll have our symposium in 2025, and now that we have all these local communities, just the act of keeping those going, and I'm still showing up at all of them, right? So if you can imagine that's not going to be able to be sustainable as we keep spinning up new communities. Eventually they'll have to start running on their own, but and that'll be a great day when these things are running on their own. So but yeah, I'll be going out to a lot of the local InsurTech America events, which by the way hasn't been too formally announced yet, but we have a new brand and it's called InsurTech America. And it's meant to basically to be the wrapper around all these communities, and it gives us the opportunity to do some new things at new levels of scale that we weren't able to do when we were just these local communities. More to come on that.
Everything you have touched have succeeded, so I'm excited to be a part of it and watch it. And yeah, well, thank you for coming on the show. I'm definitely gonna have you back maybe 6 months, maybe 9 months from now, and we can talk about all your new events. So, Stacey, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Yes, it's a pleasure as always catching up with you.